So we have other CSS property types. We have after, and then we have before. And that one is those two are like, for example, if you have a button and you want, okay, before I click on this button, probably the color should be green. And then after I click on this button, the color should turn to purple. Do you understand? So that's like CSS property that is being applied before and after. This hover, for example, you don't just have to be where we have something like this. For example, we have like multiple ways you can apply hover. If we have buttons, now we have buttons and we want, okay, when you hover on this button, maybe it's a submit button. If you hover on it, if it's bright purple, let it turn to maybe dark purple to show that, okay, you're hovering on the button is in its active state. You understand? So those are like, and it's still the same way you're going to apply it. You're going to apply it using this particular dot hover. You can do dots. You see, there are like multiple ones after, before, and this rest. I haven't really used most of these ones here, but this particular after and before, you will use them constantly if you're using plain CSS to style. So those, okay, we have checked here. Checked is, for example, you're making use of a checkbox and you're trying to apply maybe a style to the checkbox, and you say, okay, before you check it, let the particular checkbox be purple or pink, and then after you check it, let the color turn to maybe green. So those are, you can just go through it. There are multiple um, properties that are applied that same way. And so we have this opacity. This um, opacity is used to signify how bright or how dull a particular element is, right? So it starts from one and goes to zero. So zero being the least and one being, yes, the greatest. So one means, okay, let the opacity be, very thick or very visible. And while zero is like, okay, let the opacity be zero. If I change this to like, let me say 0.2, let's see what happens. That means when I hover over this, you see, it becomes very dark, right? Means the opacity is just 0.1. But if I use, for example, 0.9, it means when I hover it, there is really no much difference because one means the particular color of the item, right? While zero means, okay, it's getting to be very dim, or it can just become blank if you use zero at all. If we use zero, it will just go blank. If you hover it, it appears as if the particular content has been taken out. Should be exactly. So if you hover over it, it just appears black. So that's for opacity. I cannot cover, then this transform is to just to allow the particular content pop out, right? Transform is the same thing, 0 to 1, one being the biggest and zero being the smallest, right? So as it keeps going, it means let it expand. And there are like a lot of other properties in CSS. You can just, the more you see projects, the more you can research on how to apply some of the super styles. So if you see what I do is, if I'm going through a particular website, right, and I see something new that I don't know how I've never seen that, because new things are constantly being like released. So if I see something new, I can just go read up about it, check it out, and see how the do that particular thing, and maybe try to use it on my own. Or maybe if you're like faced with other projects, then you can like try to accomplish those things on your own. So the rest, they are not like things that we have not seen before. The rest, they are just basic grid, display grid. I'm sure we understand all these other ones. So that's it about this. So now, um, media queries are okay, as I explained before, they're a way, just like how grid and flexbox gives us the opportunity to create responsive design. Media queries also does that. but media queries are more specific. So when we had this particular, let me take this off. So when we had this particular website and we try to inspect it, so how to get this particular responsive mode is you will click on, okay, mine is already open, but if you go up here, you would see this particular desktop and mobile view. I don't know if you guys can see this particular icon here. So if you click on it, it will give you access to responsive design. So you can minimize and increase it however you want to check if your particular page is responsive or not. Now, once I reduce it, it gives me my screen size at multiple pixels. Now, this is at 691 pixels, right? If I keep increasing it, decreasing it, it goes down to 302 pixels. And then I can increase it however I want it. But if you notice, this particular website is not responsive. Yes, it's a bit responsive, but okay, what if I don't want it to be this way? What if I want, okay, at maybe at 382 pixels. That's the screen size of 382 pixels. Every mobile device, every device you have a particular screen size. Like for example, my own screen size I think is 1,300 and something. That's my default screen size. It's very wide. While some people have maybe your screen size is as small as 700 and something. I think the normal phone screen size is 375 for phone screens. So if I want, for example, at this particular screen size, I want all these things to be stacked instead of in this particular format. Or maybe I want, we have three columns right now. We have column one, column two, column three. We have column one, column two, and column three, right? In this particular um design. So what if I want maybe at a particular screen size of 382, I want to change it to be just one column. Let all of them have one column so they will appear stacked, right? If I want to do that, you do that with media query. So media query just gives you the ability to just like um um create responsive design using new it won't be like as if you're like using new ways of doing. It's just the same css you're going to be writing, but you just use a particular format to write apply those styles. So you can apply each styles you're applying to particular screen sizes and make the screen sizes conform to however choice you want to make it conform. Do you guys understand that? All right, let me. So to denote a media query screen you would use, let me use this. You see, immediately I type this at, it gives me this particular option at media screen something. So if I click on it, so now this is a way to denote this at media screen. Um, it's basically asking you, okay, at what screen do you want to specify? So if you want, you can specify maybe at screen 375, maybe at screen 700 and something, whichever one you want. Then you would put in this. This goes here. don't know why my styles are not getting applied. Okay, so I was trying to get the syntax correctly so I don't get anything mistaken. So this is exactly the way to describe how you denote your media queries. So here we are just selecting a maximum width of 400 pixels. I can make it go lower than this or higher than this if I want to. So we are saying at a maximum width of 400 pixels, give this particular container a display of flex. Initially, it was a grid container up here. This container was is a grid container. We defined it as being a grid container and we gave it grid repeat of 4, right? So when we your media queries have to go below all of your CSS styling. If not, any other CSS styling you had put before that will not get applied. So when you're done with your desktop view, you can go on and start customizing it however way you want to customize it. So you just use as media's only screen and maximum width of 400 pixels. So when it reaches a maximum width of 400 pixels, we are going to display our container as flex, and then we are giving it a direction of calling because we want it okay at 400 pixels. So we can make it go lower than this. We can give it, for example, 375 if we want to. So when we come here, if we just reload, it means once we give this 375, 375 is going to become flexed, right? And if we expand this, this is what it's going to look like at 375. But if we keep increasing it, so you see at a maximum width, maximum means if it goes from 1 to 375, it's going to be flexed and in calling, right? If it goes above 375, it goes back to being a grid. Do you understand? That's maximum width. Now if I use minimum width, I think it's MIN, minimum width of this, and I give it, let's say, 700. So minimum width means from 700 pixels, from 700 pixels and above, from 700 pixels and above is going to be flexed, right? And maximum width means from 1 to that particular um, amount that we specify, right, is going to take that particular design. But minimum width means from that particular number and above is going to take that particular design. Do you guys understand me? It's a bit confusing. So maximum means from 1 to that particular one, while minimum means from that particular one and above. So if we come down to 500, it's going to keep giving us this particular grid structure. But once we go from 500 and we get to 700, so it becomes flexed even when we come to our big screen because it's from 700 and above. So now what this allows us to do is, if, for example, if we create websites or we design stuff that when we when we start minimizing them and we notice maybe at a particular screen size, it starts misbehaving or it's getting jam-packed or it's getting squeezed. So you can now specify that particular screen size and either maybe move it below or move it anyhow you want using flex or grid, whichever one you want to use it. Do you guys understand me? Any questions so far on media queries? Any questions?
Can we go back to
All right.
can you give like both minimum and maximum width? That's the one.
You can come here and give minimum width, right? Then you can decide to say you can give multiple screen sizes. It doesn't just have to be one. You can come and say maximum of, let me say, 400. What this is saying is that from 700 and above, make it flexed, and also from 1 to 400, make it flexed. That means from 400 to 700 is going to only be grid. Do you understand? So let's test that out. So if we reload, we already have our 700 and above, which is being flexed. If we go, if we get to 500, 600, and below like that, but immediately we get from 400 and below, it goes back to being flex. Do you understand? So you can decide to have multiple screen sizes if you want to have multiple screen sizes and give them multiple designs. So you can keep reconfiguring, you can keep selecting, and in this particular syntax, you it's better you just have this particular, because there are different ways to write this media queries. You can use this media only screen, but my problem is that most of the times if you use some particular ways you see on the internet, most of them don't work. I don't know for me though, because sometimes you will see them using just screen like this, but sometimes if you apply this it will not work. Like for example on what are they calling it, VS Code gives you the opportunity to use it just this way, but then if you apply this at media only screen and this, not just this, if you browse on media queries you see other formats of writing it, but it's just better to just stick with maybe one particular one that works for you. That's why I was actually copying it for my phone, because sometimes it can get confusing. So then you specify your particular screen size inside this open inside this brackets. Then you must have your particular selector and then the same design. So this entire container, this media container, is just to say, okay, apply this particular style only for this screen size. Do you understand me? Do you guys understand me? So you're just going to apply this particular design, and you can have multiple screen sizes. I can keep going, I can maybe specify at 600 pixels, give it a design of this, give it a font size of this, maybe structure it this particular way, whichever way you want. So it just gives you the flexibility to design anything you want. Any questions so far? Any questions? All right.
So sorry. So you are
All right.
saying media only screen is
Mm.
what made yours to work. If you tried it another way, it wouldn't have worked.
Yes. For example, if I do this, I do this, it gives me this already. Do you understand? Like VS Code gives us this as media screen. That means you can go straight into writing your design. But I'm pretty sure that if I put anything I want to put into this particular place, it's not going to work. Do you understand? So it's better you just stick to this particular format. Then you can signify, okay, minimum weight, maximum weight, whichever one you want to signify. All right. So that's it for media queries. There's nothing really special about it. It's just if you're done with designing your desktop screens, then you can, if you want to make it responsive for your mobile screen, you can now start selecting maybe a particular screen size, and then you just be using this your developer tools to be monitoring it. Okay, at this particular screen size, I can see it's getting squeezed up. I can just select it. I'll just okay 550, and then I'll just go to my code and then specify okay at 550 I can see this particular box. These two boxes, I mean these particular boxes are becoming too squeezed. I can select these two boxes and merge them together back. Do you guys understand me? For example, I'm noticing that at 550 pixels, I don't like the fact that box 1 2 4 and 5, right, are becoming too squeezed. So this is box 4 and 5. Let me check how I selected them. I have 1 6 9 and 10. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. I can decide 1 2 3 4 5 6. I can decide to pick this particular one here. That is this one. And this is for 550. And I decide to pick it. And we are picking this particular box. And I want to specify, remember, we can know which particular way it starts from the rows that we want it to start and the way we want it to stop from this particular grid lines. So I want it to start from, it's originally at 3 and 4 and is at 3 to 5, right? And I want it to just be 4 to 5. So give it 4 to 5 and I reload. And let me say I select this particular one. Sleep keep that is 1 2 3 4 5 5 ba? So I can select that particular one. Type 5 and I want it to move from I want it to move from 2 to 4, right? So I'll use 2 over 4. I reload. So you see, this particular one has shifted at just this particular screen size because I'm using maximum weight of 550. That means from one to this one. So if I go above 550, it goes back to what it was previously. Do you understand me? So if I increase the screen size, it goes back to it just before I reach, it goes back to this one being big and this one being small. But if I reduce it from this, if I reduce it, this one is the one that's big, this one is small, this one is small, right? If I increase it to 550, it switches back. Do you understand me now? Do you guys understand? So you can select whichever HTML element and decide to style it differently than how it normally would be styled. Do you guys understand me? Any more questions? All right. So that's it for media queries.
I wanted to ask
Okay.
a question. So, like, after designing this grid,
Mm.
like, gives you the normal like the space, how do you get to like make it responsive without? I'm not talking about media queries now. Like, the normal size now.
So grid does not give us the opportunity to make things responsive, really. We can only make grid responsive, just like how Flex has a Flex wrap, right? Even Flex, even the Flex wrap set now, sometimes it will not make things as responsive as how you would want it to. So that's why you have media queries to specify at a particular screen size. Do you understand? So for example, let's make this okay, let's actively make this particular website responsive. So initially, if I take this stuffs off, if I take this two off, right? We have our grid box, and at this particular screen size is okay, right?
Yes.
So let's say what we want to do is that as we keep reducing, let's say at one screen size that it starts to get too compact, as we reduce it, it's still okay, right? Relatively. As we keep reducing it, it's still okay. It's still okay. Let's say this these two, these two and these two and these ones, they are too small, right? So what should we do? Let's say let's span this across, right? That means if we push this across, this one will go out to the next line. Abi? So let's start with this particular respiration. That's line number two. And we have a screen size of 653. So let's comment this out. So we are using maximum width. So we have a screen size of 653. Let's say 650. At 650, we want our container. We type, we're selecting box number two, right? So we are saying box number two,